A very warm welcome to the session. So in today's session, we are going to see how we'll be able to consume some of these BW artifacts within Lumira, especially on BW HANA scenario. So this specific presentation is geared for landscapes which has got BW HANA. Let me move on to the first slide. I want to start this with an important link slide. There is a how-to guide which was published by me. However, there are other very important links too, which are basically documents which are published by the BW product team, and it talks at length in terms about what kind of functions are supported, what are the various different BW objects which are possible based on which you can actually generate HANA views. So I would definitely request you guys to actually look at some of these for some of the technical questions which you might have. So let's get on to the prerequisites. This is at a very high level, though it doesn't cover almost all the prerequisites, but I just thought I will capture some of them which would be very handy and useful. One of the ways we actually check to see whether your BW HANA version is geared for model generation is via the RS2 HANA_check transaction code. That would allow you to run a consistency check to see if all the prerequisites are met. If there are any gaps, that would the end result would actually show you what are the things which are missing, and then you can go ahead and then either add a note or fix based on whatever is the error message. Very importantly, the BW on HANA version SP5 and above supports these HANA generations. And what you have is a specific note which is very important, this 2103553. It is a collection for troubleshooting note containing relevant information regarding known issues and notes, which should be implemented to have an up-to-date model generation installation. So, however, this was as of SP8, but please, by no means this is the final note which you will be looking at. I would request you to definitely look at your service marketplace for any additional details. This is not a basis related session, so I would request you, in case there are any updates, please look at those updated notes. From the prerequisites in HANA side, there are certain authorization related details which needs to be taken into account. And you need to have some of these object privileges for the SysPI user, and you have to ensure that your repo read privileges for the package are kind of enabled. So these are some of the things which needs to be set on the HANA side and on the BW side to ensure that your model generation goes through without any hitch. So let's move on. So one of the business pain point, which we are going to address, or which we're talking about, or which we have encountered while talking to most of the customers, is they want to consume their BEx queries in Lumira, but the current version of Lumira has some restrictions in terms of consuming some of these BEx artifacts. One of the things is the limitation in terms of only visualizing the data, and there is no way you can create a story or kind of distribute your story once you're done developing it. Though this is one of the major requirements for most of the customers. However, I think it's very important to note that there are a lot of product-related enhancements which are taking place almost on a monthly basis, and there is definitely going to be a fully functional BW connection within Lumira shortly. Timelines are not known yet, but that is something which is definitely planned. So nothing to be really worried about. However, this particular demo which I'm going to show is primarily to show you that there is an option which exists if you are on BW on HANA. And this particular demo was created on SP8, HANA SP8 and above, where you can enable your BW InfoProviders and BEx queries to generate HANA analytical views, which can then be consumed within Lumira. So what is the benefit of using this specific option? You will be able to consume your BEx queries just like any other HANA view which you would consume in a Lumira on your Lumira desktop. So you should be able to you should be able to see your prepared tab where you will be able to do your transformations, enrichments. You will be able to create visualizations. You'll be able to weave them into a story, and then finally you should be able to share it. So all that would kind of unfold once you have your HANA view generated based on your BEx query. So what is very important to note here is that there is a mapping which has been already defined. And for BW users who are already conversant with BW technologies, Composite InfoProvider is a totally new entity where you will be able to generate a calculation view based on a composite provider. Similarly, for your other artifacts like your BEx query or your InfoProvider or your DSO, you would be able to generate an OLAP view, which is an analytical view on the HANA side. So on the left is what you see are your BW artifacts, on the right are your HANA views. The master data objects, once you declare them as InfoProviders, you will be able to generate either an analytical view or an attribute view. And this is important because within the master data maintenance thing, there is a checkbox which you'll have to enable to ensure that it is your master data is exposed as an InfoProvider, and only then you will be able to generate your attribute views or analytical views. The scope of this demo is centered around InfoProviders, primarily the input cubes, DSO, and then we'll also mainly see how we could create a BEx query and then kind of generate a HANA view based on a BEx query, which will ultimately be consumed within Lumira. So once you have your HANA artifacts generated from your BW front part, you will be able to consume these HANA views just like any other HANA view within SAP Lumira. And that is a significant difference in the way you would actually utilize some of these BEx. You'll be able to consume your BEx entities within SAP Lumira. Some commonly used BW and HANA InfoProviders, in case you're not conversant, I'm sure most of you would be aware what is an attribute view. However, an attribute view is primarily a master data object which is residing on the BW side, but the attribute view is a terminology specific to HANA. So this is a counterpart of your master data info object on the BW side. Attribute view gets generated on the HANA side once you activate your HANA generation on an info object. Analytical view is an OLAP view on the HANA side, and it gets generated when you activate either your DSO or your info queue. And a calculation view is a multi-provider or a composite provider, which when activated would generate a calculation view on the HANA side. So all these are the mappings from the previous slide. And a composite provider, which is a new entity, and what you actually have as part of the composite provider is a combination of join and union functions. So if you remember, on the BW side, you have infosets and multi-providers. Infosets are primarily the join, based on join condition, and multi-providers are primarily based on union. Within a composite provider, you can bring in both these operations and then expose that as a HANA view, which is a calculation view on the HANA side. So the demo sequence is going to be, we're going to do a very quick check. It is very important that we have the same user which logs into BW also exists on the HANA side. So we should ensure that to generate this view, we need to have the same user which should be used on the BW side as well as on the HANA side. It is important here because what happens as of SP5, BW S7.4 SP5, the authorizations and analytic privileges or the roles gets generated on the HANA side when you actually generate this HANA view. So it's automatically done and it is specific to that specific user which you are using. So it's important to keep that in mind. The second check which we are going to do is to see if there are any inconsistencies by running this RS2 HANA underscore check, which would give you a list of all the objects which were inconsistent or which were consistent. And then this is more like a housekeeping thing where you would like to go and see which HANA package contains these generated views on the HANA side. And the transaction for that is RS2 HANA underscore view. Once we are done with those housekeeping activities, what we will do is we'll generate a HANA view based on a DSO, of course going to our administrator workbench, which is RSA1, and then we'll generate a HANA view based on InfoQ, and then we'll go ahead and create a BEx query, and then generate a HANA view based on that BEx query. And once you're done, you would actually, what you would do in the BEx queries is you would actually create indexes and then fill it up. And that would kind of ensure your data in the HANA views is up to date. I'm going to show you in a brief moment. And then finally, we are going to create a story on Lumira by consuming these BEx queries, which is nothing but the HANA views which are generated based on these models. We are going to consume that in the video. So let's start. So the very first check which we are going to perform is on the BW side. So this is my BW system. I've logged in as a demo user. That is the name of the user which I've used. And then I'm going to do the first check, which is to ensure that the demo user which I've used also exists on my HANA Studio or the HANA instance. And if you look at it under the security tab over here, under the users, you will see demo user which is available. And of course, these were some of the roles which I had actually, when I activated some of the HANA views, they got generated. But we're going to see some of the other views which would get generated automatically over here. Once you generate your HANA view, you will also see some of these roles being generated for that specific user. So just to start with, let's move on to the next one, which is where I'm going to do a check. So we are done checking the user exists on both HANA as well as BW. And in this, I'm going to do a consistency check. Sorry. Not sure. And if you see over here, it has picked up the demo user which I've used for logging into my BW system. And I've checked all these checks, which are the consistency checks to run through this model generation routine. And then when I actually click on this, it will say select on SAP HANA view or filter string by procedure cannot be checked. But it's just the information. And when I run this, it kind of gives me details of all these various different checks it has performed. If you see over here, it also tells you the SAP HANA package which was generated or which is available for you. Once you generate your BEx or your any of your BW artifacts, the HANA views which are generated get stored under this HANA package. You can see these privilege assignments. You will see that the user demo corresponding DBMS user demo form. So it does check on the HANA DB to see if this particular user exists. So we have to ensure that the same user is being used. Of course, you can also uncheck the demo. You can completely remove this demo and run it system-wide, which will check for all the possible users on that particular system too, if they are consistently available on BW or on HANA. So this is one of the consistency checks which we perform. The other thing which we want to check is we want to see where exactly is your package or the HANA package where your HANA views will be stored. Okay, let me see this. So RS2 HANA underscore view. And it tells me that it is under system, local, BW to HANA. Now I'm going to go back, switch to HANA, and what I'm going to see, it says system local. BW to HANA, BW to HANA. So this is where all your generated views will be stored. All your generated HANA views will be stored. So this is one way to counter check whether you're able to access that particular package or not. So with that, let me jump into the actuals. So we have done a we have ensured that the demo user exists. We have ensured that the model generation check is consistent. We have identified the package where the generated views on the HANA side will be stored. Now we are going to go and generate a HANA view based on DSO. So very quickly, what I'm using is a demo content. I just copied the demo content on my side. It's a sales analysis DSO. It's a very straightforward DSO. It has got a product group, bill quantity, and amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and then click on change. So once you have your prerequisites met, what you will see on the setting is an additional checkbox which says external SAP HANA view over here. And I'm going to check this, and I'm going to activate this. So when I activate it, once it is done activating, I can go back to my HANA Studio, go back to the same package, and under analytical views, I should be able to see a HANA view with the same technical name as my DSO, and my DSO is ZDSO_sal. So let me go back to this and let me refresh. So if you see over here right now, it is showing 4. I'm going to go and then I'm going to refresh it. So once it's done refreshing, I will see that my ZDSO_sal is available. I can very quickly go do a data preview over here. And sorry, so there's no data over here in this. So okay, let me go and activate my cube. That should bring in data. I'm sorry, I should have checked my DSO. Let me go and activate my cube. IC_. Sales now. Okay, sorry. Let me do this. Let me go and then activate this. And similarly, I will have a setting which would say generate an external HANA view over here, and then I'm going to activate this. Okay, and then I just come over here and then refresh it, and I should see my 6th, which is my IC_L sale, and then let me go and then do a data preview, and I should be able to see data on this. So you can see that the data is now available. I'm sorry about the DSO, I should have checked the data, but you'll see pretty much all the data, whatever you had on the BW side, now getting generated as part of your HANA Analytical view. So that is one way to check now. So we have seen how we could actually go generate HANA views from on a DSO on a cube. Let me go and create very quickly a BEx query. I'm going to create a BEx query based on my same cube, IC_L sale. I'm going to say I've already clicked on this, so let me bring this up. Right here. And I'm going to drag a few objects to my rows and columns. So maybe product group, product, and I'm going to bring my bill quantity. So this happens when you are in a demo. Okay, let me close this. Sorry about that. Let me quickly bring on the I'm going to go create based on my info area, and then I'm going to bring this so it's L sale. Then let's go and then pull the product group, product, net sales. And the bill quantity comes through. Just want to ensure if there's any other dialog window open. Okay, it should bring up. I don't know why. Okay, let's do this. Let me go and copy an existing query, which will be easier. Here. And let me open an existing query. So let me take one of these. Okay, and then I'm going to save this as. I'm going to save demo query webinar. I'm going to just name it as underscore demo query one. I'm going to copy this technical name over here. I'm going to save this. And I'm now going to go to a transaction slash and RSP. And in this particular transaction, this is where what we do is we choose query as info provider. And what we do is we kind of create an index on the query which just created. So I'm going to release this query as an info provider. It will say that it's now released as an info provider. Now I'm going to go and create. When I say create, it will open up this index maintenance screen where I can go, and then if you see over here, external SAP HANA repository view, I click on this, it will now say external SAP HANA view for reporting. Now when I activate and fill the index, it will bring up this job scheduling maintenance screen. I can either time it, if it is like a daily report which you want to kind of update on the HANA side, you can actually schedule it. But for my purpose, I'm just going to do an immediate run. I'm going to say save it as, and when I do an update list over here, you'll see that this particular query is now added to this list. Now, if I go back to my HANA on the HANA side, and then just go, let me go and then refresh this. When I click on this query, you'll see that this specific query is now available. So if I now were to go and then do a data preview, and then do a raw data, you'll see I have values which I have got in this particular query. So I can now, so this is now ready, pretty much ready for you to consume within Lumira. So if I were to go now to Lumira, and then I just go, it's just like a regular job, I'll go and connect to real time. So one of the important things to note here is you can have an online connect, a real-time connectivity to your BEx query, which can be filled on a periodic basis based on that scheduling screen which I showed you on the RSDDB transaction, where you were releasing the query as an info provider. And once you do that, whatever you see on your published report would be an up-to-date value whenever you launch it. So once you have here, I can go and then paste that. I got this analytical view, which was what was generated. And it will show me the available measures and dimensions. I got all the required dimensions and measures. I'm going to go ahead and then create this. If you go back to your prepare room, you will see all your measures and dimensions being accordingly categorized, and you will see the data populating in your prepare tab. You should be able to do the basic operations, whatever you were allowed to do on an online connection. Pretty much the same restrictions apply even for this specific connection. So once you're done with that, I'm going to really very quickly show. I can just go and then create my cross tab, wherein I just pull in my product group and my product, right? And then I can go and define a rule if I want. I can go define a rule. And I'm going to say net sales, whatever that is, greater than, I'm going to say 400. And then I'm going to say formatted, background should be green, say okay. So I can pretty much get the same kind of my conditional formatting or kind of an alert based on whatever specific value range which I want, and then enable that on a cross tab. I can also go and then create any other visualization I want based on the available values. And that kind of shows what all you can do. I can go and now create an infographic where I can pull my table, I can pull my chart, I can even go create a board where I can enable some of these user controls, which could be user input. So I have input controls. I can go, maybe I'll just pull my product group over here. And then I can kind of use the same functionality what you would do on a HANA view. And then eventually you can share it. Let me share it to my, okay. Oh, it's a real, okay. So for online connection, I only have these options right now. But if it is an offline connection, you can even share it to your cloud. I mean, I did that yesterday, so I was able to share it. If it is an offline mode, you can actually share it to a cloud platform too. So that is pretty much on the demo side I have. So let me see. So what we have just seen is we have checked the configuration, we have checked the consistencies between BW and HANA. We have generated views based on DSOs, cubes, and BEx query. And we have seen how we could consume our HANA generated views within Lumira. And you can pretty much use the same connection to SAP HANA or download from SAP HANA as the options to connect to this generated HANA views. So that is pretty much what I had on my demo. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Raveen. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. Thank you, Raveen, for presenting. Excellent presentation. We do have some questions, and Eric has been on the online, so thank you, Eric, for answering some of them. So there was a question on the availability of the composite info provider, and Eric's answered that as being available sometime back in BW 7.3. Eric has answered a question about attendee BDU asked about the time estimate for the entire BW integration in Lumira, and Eric has said it's not part of this presentation, but there are upcoming plans for around the end of first half this year, so not so far. And that will be in a connecting mode called BW data acquisition. Question from Gaurav. When BEx is used as an info provider and a HANA view is generated, what does the job in RSDDB do? Where does it fill in?
Okay.
Where does it fill data? Go ahead.
Yeah. So RSDDB, where you're actually filling in the indexes, that's basically where you are kind of indexing your HANA view, and you're kind of filling in with the latest data. Whatever data gets populated on your within your backend is what gets kind of refreshed on your HANA side when you actually run that particular job. So it's kind of re-indexing your existing HANA view, which is already generated.
Okay, and Gaurav, that answers your question. It's great. Otherwise, please post another chat. So a question from the telephone number is the ID. Does the conversion of BEx queries to HANA views have license implications?
That will be difficult to answer. I'm not sure about that part. I think that is more of an AE question, I guess, in terms of the licensing.
Yes, contact your AE for that, whether you need special licenses. Question from Stephen Poland. Could you please explain the scheduling transaction in BW for exposing the BEx queries to Lumira? Is Lumira consuming the last scheduled instance of data from the BEx query, or is a refresh in Lumira consuming BEx on demand?
So once you have your data sitting in HANA, depending upon the kind of connection which you have used, if it's a HANA online connection, it is a real-time access to the data which is sitting on the HANA side. And this HANA view is getting generated whenever you're running that schedule on that text where you're filling in those indexes or re-indexing that particular HANA generated view. So if you have just re-indexed your HANA view is generated, and whatever you're accessing on Lumira will be the most up-to-date information. However, 2 days down the line, if your schedule has not run, you will still access the HANA view with the data which is a snapshot view from that past time, if your scheduler has not run. So, but if your scheduler has been running on a daily basis, whatever you are going to access on the Lumira, if your HANA connection to Lumira is an online connection, that is real-time access. However, if you are using an offline connection, it purely depends upon you how you would refresh your story and publish it to your platform. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Thank you, Raveen. A question from Saikat Das. If we consume BW objects directly from Lumira versus the equivalent HANA views, which is the faster method?
Ideally, if you have a direct connectivity to BEx or BW, that would definitely be the fastest.
Okay. And from Pradeep, a question: is this temporary workaround that SAP is providing? Is it a temporary workaround, or is this something that SAP encourages, this particular method that you've demonstrated?
Okay. To be very clear, this is not a workaround. This is an option which is available for users who have BW on HANA 7.4 SP8 and above to use in case they want to consume their BW content within Lumira. Please note, I think I had mentioned this very clearly in my slide, that the BW connectivity, a fully functional BW connectivity to Lumira is definitely there, is going to be there soon. And if that is available, I would definitely recommend you should go by that route. But in case you are still waiting for that particular connectivity or that particular option to be available, if you want to consume as of today, you can definitely use this. It's not a recommended approach, or it's not one of the workarounds. It's just an option which is available.
Okay, and I think Eric has responded similarly. So follow-up question from Gaurav. How different is using the RSDDB transaction to the direct option present in Lumira to connect to BEx as an info provider?
So the current version, which if you were to look at 1.23, we do have a BW connectivity. It's real time. However, there are limitations in terms of what all you can do. You can only currently visualize. There is no option for data preparation and compose, and that's the full functionality of BW connectivity, which you will see in the coming months or coming weeks.
Okay, thank you. And a question from Ola Cullen, again on RSDDB. So the RSDDB transaction is available as of what BW on HANA version, and also how are HANA permissions managed? I think you showed something.
Yeah, so I think I did mention about this. It's already there in the important link slide. You should be able to actually get all that information. However, very quickly, as of SP5, NetWeaver SP5, NetWeaver 7.4 SP5, I think. When you generate your HANA view, for that specific user, corresponding roles are also generated on the HANA side, and it gets attached to that particular user on the HANA side. So that is to answer part of your question. The other question which you had was from which version RSDDB is available. I'm not very sure about that question. I think you can check in one of these documents, one of those important links, which should actually show. But as I understand, this is available for virtual info provider, so it should also be available for your query. But the option to generate an Excel HANA view, I'm not sure from which specific version. I know you can only generate HANA views from on BEx queries starting from SP8 onward. So that partly answers your question, I hope.
Okay. So in general, the whole demo process was for SP8 anyway, right? So.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I did state that in my presentation.
Yes, you did. Okay. Thanks, Raveen. So a question from the telephone number ID. You mentioned the SAP Lumira cloud. Is it possible to consume live connections in the cloud, or do you mean the Lumira server?
So on the cloud, I was only able to publish when I'm connected to HANA offline, so it's not real time for sure. On the Lumira server, definitely it will be real time.
Okay, thank you. And question for Pradeep. I guess it seems to be addressing to Eric. We are going through the same activity in our company, and basis is against going this option, saying it adds more load on HANA. So I guess a question to you, Eric. I'm not sure if you are able to answer it, but I'll leave it to you to respond at the moment. So Eric's responding on chat.
Okay.
We'll wait for that. Question from Isaac. I'm on BW on HANA SP5, and the transaction code RS2 HANA checks as it doesn't exist. Well.
Yeah. So I think it's important that you might have to check on that note which I had mentioned. It's important to have all those prerequisites, and those are all captured in some of those important link documents, especially if you look at the first guidance documents, which are part of the important links. you should be able to see what are the prerequisites for that specific release or version.
Okay, thank you. Question from Pradeep, I think maybe a rehash of an earlier one. So accessing the BEx query directly and accessing a HANA view of the same BEx query, can you answer what is the impact on the HANA database and performance?
So this is consuming directly BEx queries in Lumira versus generating a HANA view and consuming?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not very sure about the impact. As I mentioned to you, this is just one of the options, or I mean, this is just an option which can be leveraged. I'm definitely not very sure about the performance impact or the utilization of space. That would be something which you definitely need to check with your basis team to understand. However, if you were to look at, if you have a BW on HANA, where your HANA is your database, pretty much everything gets, especially if there are any complex calculations, gets pushed down to your database layer. So when you say the impact on the HANA DB to consume directly versus generating HANA view, there will be some impact for sure, because you are creating an additional object on the HANA database which would then be consumed within Lumira. So that is the only reasoning I can think of, but this might not be very accurate. So I would definitely defer it to one of those first guidance links which was posted in that presentation.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember as well that what you demonstrated currently shows, one of the purposes shows additional functionality, or the ability to leverage the functionalities in Lumira.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So question from Sydney. Today, Lumira reads quickly the HANA database, but the upload to the Lumira server is not so fast. When does Lumira work in memory? Sorry.
So, okay, let me understand this. So, one of the things which is important to note, if you're saying upload, that means you're trying to consume a HANA offline mode, and then you're trying to publish that to your Lumira server. Is that accurate to start with? Okay. Now, if it is a HANA online connectivity, you don't have to really worry, because once you have your HANA view, you should be able to access directly from your Lumira server and create visualizations, or you should be able to consume your HANA views with online connectivity directly within Lumira server. When you say, I'm not very sure when you say running it in memory, because your Lumira server is actually sitting on top of your HANA access layer. So essentially, if it is a real-time, if it is an online connectivity, your data sits within HANA, so there is absolutely nothing to upload, or no duplication of data takes place. It's only the metadata which gets published. However, when you're trying to do it in offline, that's when the data gets duplicated. I'm not sure what upload means in this case, because if it is talking about publishing, then we haven't come across this scenario where it takes a whole lot of time to publish it onto Lumira server. That is new. I would definitely say if it is an issue, I would request you to create a support ticket, and then I think the support folks can actually look at it.
Okay, thank you. Sydney, if that doesn't answer, please post some additional statement on the chat. So on to the next question from Bharat Kumar. Could you please let us know when is the release plan for Lumira directly on BW with full functionality? I think Eric answered that earlier, but feel free again, Eric, if there's any additional information. So from Pierre Arnaud, is it possible to have the prompt hierarchy and structure in the BEx with this solution?
Could you repeat that question, sorry?
The question, is it possible to have a prompt for a hierarchy and structure in BEx with this solution?
Okay, one of the things which I would like to share, and I think most of it will be answered, is one of the links which I posted on my PowerPoint talks about this link, which has got everything to do with what is supported, what is not supported. And you should be able to see over here all those functionalities which are supported, ignored, and not supported on the BW side. And that's for the HANA views. So if I want to look at all the available functions which are supported, the BW functions which are supported on the HANA generated view, these are all the functions which are supported. I would definitely recommend, please go through these. As I said, the scope is only to show you an option to consume HANA generated views within Lumira, but you will find all those tons of information, additional information on the BW side, because it's kind of difficult to scope out all these details within a 1 hour session.
Okay, thank you. So a question from Chitamba. How about the BW authorizations working in Lumira? Are there any limitations?
So BW authorizations, we do have certain limitations. I think it is very important, especially on the info objects which are being used to generate attribute views. The authorization relevant related details are important, and that is again available in this specific link. Like I said, as of SP5, when you generate a HANA view based on your DSO or your queue, for that specific user, the authorization roles are automatically generated, and they are kind of packaged in the roles within your HANA Studio. So if you were to look at this particular demo user, these are all the roles which are getting generated, and then they'll get packaged in that granted roles section of that specific user. So that gets generated. This is partly answering your question, but I would again defer it back to this specific link which talks in detail about all the various different details which you would want to know about generating HANA views based on BW artifacts.
Okay, thank you. And I see that Eric has answered a couple of questions. Eric, again, responding to the timeline question from Bharat. So there are plans for upcoming at the end of H1 this year, so in BW data acquisition mode. So I think that's the end of the questions so far. We can leave it open for a few minutes, but you know, if there's any further questions, please reach out to me, adrian.paul@sap.com. Also, somebody had their request for PDF copies of the slides. The webinar recording itself will be on the calendar page in a few days' time. It takes us a few days to get through the editing and reformatting and so on, but it will be there soon. So yeah, so one question is coming up from Chitamba. Hope you will be sharing the URL that you're referring to check for limitations of supported features. Raveen, was that in your deck or?
Yeah, they are all in that. However, in case you have anything specific, please send an email to Adrian, and then we can look at it and then send you additional information if it's possible.
Question from Patrick Althoff. I'm not quite sure if this is in scope here. When will the Lima add-on be GA?
So I think, I don't know, do we answer that, Adrian?
Did we answer that, you're saying? I said that I'm not sure if that's in scope for this presentation.
Yes.
Lima.
Yeah, Lima is a totally different.
Yeah, so Eric has said Lima will not GA, but there are other plans. So okay, well, doesn't look like there's any questions coming in. So I want to thank everyone for their attendance, and I want to thank Raveen especially and Eric also for the great work here. So this concludes this webinar, but we'll be back in touch with the next webinar scheduled, and you'll be contacted through email and also on the SCN page if you follow it. So Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Irvine, especially, and Eric. And we'll see you again soon.